haven't read your article, but I feel like we landed in a very similar spot. I mean, I read like the first couple sentences, and I had the same conclusion.
Which I'm
Like
sorry, which article?
all of them.
Oh, I see. Yeah,
No, no, I'm just kidding. Hold on, let me find the top.
you talk about the Copilot thing.
Yes,
Yeah.
the Microsoft's Copilot woes are a familiar problem. So to me, this is not the perfect analogy, but it's a Microsoft analogy that people I think will
Hmm.
understand. I Copilot feels like Windows Phone to me. So you have ChatGPT as iOS, Gemini is Google, right? Literally. Like when you go look at how many people are downloading the apps, right? ChatGPT is just like way above. Is like the
Yeah.
sensor tower data was like 900 million, and then it was like ChatGPT or Gemini. Then it was like DeepSeek, and then it was like Copilot.
I know. The only thing behind Copilot in that list was what? Perplexity, probably.
Probably, and then there's some, there's a trillion
Right.
small
Well,
little things, but like
was
from
I mean, I don't think Anthropic made this list somehow. But I guess that was mobile downloads
yeah,
specifically. But this is
correct.
we're 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 2 years into these kinds of lists where Copilot is lucky to be mentioned. You know.
Hmm.
So okay, sorry, go on.
Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that Microsoft's just going to walk away from Copilot. That is not happening. But it's
Right.
like you look at it, like they spent billions of dollars on Windows Phone to be in third place.
Yep.
We we will never know if Copilot's profitable. We will never know. They will not. They don't even. They will never share that information in any meaningful way.
There's no way to know where does the money go. You
Right.
know.
Well, I mean, that's what I mean. Like, there's no
I
way
mean,
to truly know,
this
other
is
than
the company is organized specifically to avoid having to disclose this kind
yeah,
of information. Yeah.
exactly. Now, they're not going anywhere because they have this data known as
Hmm.
Office, right? That is
Yeah.
their
Yeah. Yeah.
grasp around corporate world, and they do
Hmm.
things. People will argue slightly differently because they have data protection, and they can't move as fast and loose, and so whatever. It doesn't matter. But
Right.
to me, it still feels like a Windows Phone thing. Like they've got this thing, but there's these other players in the industry who are just doing so much better.
Yeah. It this the reason I whatever however I worded the headline exactly. There's so many parallels to the past here because there are these. It's not unique to Microsoft, but I focus on Microsoft right in the PC space, but Google, Apple, whatever, they're all not guilty. They all fall to this at some point. It's you're hyper successful doing
Hmm.
something. So you're like, let's do more of that thing. And sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't. And so in Microsoft's case, I think I listed four errors, I called them, but really four things that they did that were super successful. And then they kind of beat to death and they started to become problematic, right? So and it's hard to respond to something not working when it's always worked. you know, the
Right.
opposite of like insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. But the problem is like, what do you call the opposite of that? Like you do the same thing over and over again. It's always successful. And then one day it isn't,
Hmm.
like what's that called? I don't know. But, Microsoft licensing was huge for them. That paved the way for the enterprise and then the subscription services and all this stuff. Did not work with Windows Phone because there was someone, Android, that was essentially free, not really, but super low cost for the Google Play stuff. Um, the Windows brand super successful. This is one of the big parallels with Copilot. You hit on a good brand and you beat it to death, and so I always use the classic example, like the apex of Windows branding stupidity. There was literally a product called Windows Media Player for Mac.
Yeah.
Guys, come on, like just come on. So yeah, I mean, this might explain Apple's problems with AI. Apple has that go it alone thing, where they are trying to eliminate every single partner they have, hardware, software, services, whatever. They don't always do it. Like Google search, they didn't do their own search engine, right? That one because it was so lucrative, I think, to them. But AI was one of those examples of we're going to do this in house. We got this, and they do not got this, But to your the thing you're discussing, I mean, Windows Phone is a good example because there are people to this day who are like, it's still better, it's still better. And I will say the kind of people centric thing where you stop. Microsoft's been working on this for years, but instead of you're like, okay, I'm going to write Brad a text.
Mm-hmm.
That means I have to use this app, which has this icon that's on this location on my phone, in this case, not a computer or whatever. But you have to think about that stuff, not just like I'm gonna talk to Brad. It shouldn't matter what the app is per se. Um, that's a good idea, except everyone hated it that mattered, like Facebook, the Google, whatever, like all the brands, the brands that would have been on the phone otherwise were like, yeah, no, we're not doing that. I don't think that Copilot has that advantage, but it's fascinating that they just showing up and doing it didn't work, and AI is too expensive. They couldn't just do the classic bundling, which is what the
Right.
Office success story was, right? Which I don't know. I think if this was this freaking important to this company, they should have sucked it up and included the expensive AI in the CapEx expenditures and just either given it to us or raise prices, whatever, 10, 15% on Microsoft 365. Like making it something separate might be why it failed in a way, It might be the reason. Look, when people choose OpenAI or ChatGPT and put it next to Office and not the thing you're giving them, it's a bad sign.
I mean, perfect example. So Stardock is a very heavy Microsoft 365, whatever. We use Teams, we use Outlook, we use OneDrive, we use all the stuff. We have a ton of paid for AI tools that we are exploring, right?
Of course, you got to use the best one.
Right. We look at Claude. We look like every time there's a new announcement, we have a little chat thread, and it's like, okay, let's go experiment. Can we use this? And I'll tell you what, it is very daunting because it's like, all of us have FOMO because it's like, here's the cool, right? There was ChatGPT Codex, like, oh, that was cool, and then Claude Code comes out, and then Claude Code is actually a little bit better than Code, and like, what never comes up is nobody talks about Copilot.
Right. I've made this point several times that it is bizarre to me how many normal people, for lack of a better term, mainstream non-technical people I know, people who are relatives, like brother-in-laws or husbands of a cousin in one case in Pennsylvania or whatever it is, like just normal people who are like, just in the course of talking to them, like you pay for ChatGPT? They're like, yeah, no, I use it every day. I talk to it. And you're like, what? Like there are these moments in my life where like the work thing crosses over, where you just sort of see something happening. And that happened with the iPod. I remember a non-technical, my best friend at the time, who came to me and was like, hey, I want to get an iPod. Like, should I?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, yeah, you should. He's really into music and, like to play music in the car or whatever. But like that was a huge crossover. It's not really tech, I guess, in a way, but you can see when things take off, and Copilot is like the sound of two
even
crickets.
Just this morning, so Copilot didn't announce. They announced Memory, which was, it's only like 6 weeks later than everybody else, but like in AI time, that is that is archaeology.
If your goal is to sit there and wait for other AIs to do something and then be like, yeah, we're going to do it too, I got bad news for you. Like, this is not, unless you're actually just giving it away, which, by the way, at this point would be a huge antitrust problem. Nobody cares. It's too late.
Yeah. And one of the problems Microsoft has here is that they have other lines of business that have to be tended to, whereas ChatGPT, OpenAI, Claude, Anthropic, their entire existence is to build AI tools. They don't have to worry about cloud infrastructure. They don't have to worry about everything else. So they have a laser focus on just kicking out the door new things.
You could make a really compelling case that Windows Phone should have been a much bigger deal for Microsoft at any given time, right? But if you think about what the time frame and what became Windows Phone 7, essentially, this is a relatively small team, not a major part of the company. Look, you either embrace stuff internally like that or you don't. Like Microsoft could have been all over that, and I'm not saying it would have been successful, but I mean, they could have made a much bigger effort, really. Like coming in later and doing like a 7 billion, you grab for Nokia to last ditch effort save it is like, okay, great. It's like when you watch like a football game and nothing happens, but for some reason the last 2 minutes are the most amazing football of all time because now with the clock's winding down, and it's like, okay, but you needed this kind of energy at the beginning, I don't know. Yeah, you're right. I mean, Microsoft's a big company. The priorities aren't always there. I think there was a lot of pushback internally to this AI stuff, which is a lot of this, okay, well, you're out now. Sorry. Like, this is what we're doing. And it's a lot of people like, what are we doing? Like, why are we doing this? There's a lot to this. I mean, it's a big, big thing. But I keep wondering when shareholders, but the board is going to push back because, we'll see in a couple of weeks, Microsoft will do their earnings.
Yeah.
And we'll see what they spent in that quarter. It will be over $80 billion for the full year, fiscal year. It will go up this quarter. It will go up next quarter. Unless someone finally steps in and says, what are we getting out of this? We talked like 7.4, 7.5 billion for Nokia. Whatever the number was on a quantive, they threw that money away. But those two things combined is not 1 month of AI expenditure, right? I'm sorry, 1 quarter of AI expenditure right now.
Yeah. On
So
infrastructure.
these are
You're
huge
right.
events. But in the context of what they're spending now, I mean, that's like buying a Twinkie and like, we're not going to put this on the taxes. Don't worry about it. Who cares? It's nothing. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what's going on here. It's very strange.
Here's the other thing that they will tout and champion from the rooftops for probably far too long. So
Yeah.
they just announced that they are bringing Copilot to 30,000 San Francisco city employees. That was a big announcement. Paul, I got a question for you. Where are they holding Ignite next?
Oh, and also, we had this protest problem in Seattle a couple times. You think you could do a little better job with that? Like
Yeah,
it's like,
like what city? Yeah, we didn't like San Francisco because there were,
mm-hmm.
or Seattle
Yeah,
because of the protest and the culture
mm-hmm.
around the center. We're gonna go to San Francisco, and that's gonna change it. Oh, by the way,
I
they're
mean, you made it sound a little bit like a bribe, but I mean,
I don't. There's something going on there where they're like, we're gonna go have our big conference in San Francisco. Also, they're gonna buy 30,000. Buy. I think we should use here in quotations because we don't
sure.
know the actual financials of this arrangement to bring
Right.
Copilot to a city.
I like,
City employees, I should say.
yeah, I don't know. The only saving grace Microsoft has in all this licensing nonsense with Copilot costing extra, et cetera, is that at least you can pay for it on a sort of group or employee basis or whatever. But I don't know. I know there are Microsoft 365 SKUs where people are, companies are paying for an individual that is approaching $100 a month. Like, I know this exists. Like, I don't quite understand it. I don't know. I in the sense that, maybe 2 years ago, I don't remember. I wrote this article like, when everything is AI, nothing is AI. There's always been this kind of movement out in the world, open source, whatever, alternatives to the big dominant things in big tech or whatever. But we are in the golden age of that, and you can cobble together this stuff with Notion and other small companies, Proton, whatever. And do we need to pay for this stuff anymore? I mean, at some point, this just becomes a giant bill.
Yeah.
For stuff that you can get elsewhere for less. And this
Or
is a big
better.
problem.
I mean,
Yes.
like so much of it also depends on what you're trying to do. People
Yep.
in Microsoft, I shouldn't say people, Microsoft will make the argument, well, it's secure, it's your data. We can peruse your OneDrive account. We can do all this stuff. And maybe that might materialize a little bit more effectively once they have agents, whenever that does happen, and it can go browse through all your stuff and index it and do it. And that might be where Microsoft really, like, the talons grasp in. But as of right now, the way I use it, that's a very minimal value add.
Look, we're not going back to the era where Office was released every 3 years and that's your feature set for that period of time. Like, I get this. But the sheer amount of chaos of new features exploding everywhere, having no idea if they're on any given computer, et cetera. One day I'm going to wake up and the version of OneDrive I have will actually work great with AI and we'll search and do whatever. But we were in Boston. It doesn't matter. We were in somewhere out in the world a month ago, and I needed to find something. Actually, I remember exactly what it was because I'm gonna post this again soon. But like 15 years ago, I went on like this developer boot camp thing for like iOS development, And I was like, I wrote this thing about this. It was really great. And I eventually found it, but it was like, it's really long actually. But I tried to find it on OneDrive and I couldn't. I went to OneDrive on the web and I did find it. And then I was like, all right, well, I'm like, wait a minute. I have this Synology Drive thing. So I went back to File Explorer, which is how I tried to find it originally. But I searched Synology and it found it instantly. And I was like, you know what? Screw this thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like finding the data you already know exists should be the easiest thing in the world. And these big companies are kind of screwing this stuff up. Like Google has the best search in the world, but they're doing this AI search thing in photos. I can never find anything
Oh
in
my
Google
God, it
Photos
is
anymore.
bad.
What
So
is going on? Like
uh,
this used to be the best part of this service,
their
you know?
search that they updated Google Photos with, I experienced this last week. I was at my father-in-law's house, and he's finishing his basement. And I was trying to find pictures of my basement
Yeah.
during the construction phase. I knew roughly what time, but I
Mm-hmm.
used to have it. I am positive that I used to search for the term basement construction in the
And it would
old
just come up.
interface, and it would pull up the
Yep.
category of images, and the new one does not. It
No,
finds just it's
I'm not sure I've ever found anything with it. And they keep changing the way you go back to classic search, but they also do this thing where it's like top results. And it's like, guys, I, just give me the results. Because if this is working correctly, I don't need like a curated collection of images
mm-hmm.
at the top. Like I'm looking for something here. I don't, I feel like they've lost the script a little bit, but you have enough of these experiences and you're like, I'm done. Like I'm done. And I don't know. For Microsoft is tough because they'll have this Fortune 500 market for a while, I guess. I don't know, but maybe not. Maybe that's the point. I mean, even in that part of the world, they're using ChatGPT overwhelmingly. It's a problem.
Yeah. I think your CapEx expenditure, we've already seen those cracks start to form because
Hmm.
OpenAI has said they're going to start using Google and
I
other
know.
things. So,
Yeah, and they don't really acknowledge these explicitly, but there's this in the world of you have to go out to these data centers and reserve space or time or whatever it is, and then at some point you can say, we're not going to need that. Like there's been a lot of that stuff where they were going to spend more on whatever, and we're like, yeah, our capacities are, we don't really need it, and I think a lot of that's tied to OpenAI and spreading the wealth, so to speak, with whatever
mm-hmm.
nonsense they require. But that's Copilot. I mean, it's like, what do you call this? Right? Remember, you're into cars. So, like in the 1980s, especially, Ford and GM had multiple brands each, and you would have this bizarre series of cars that were identical but had different brands, like Oldsmobile,
Yep.
Buick, Pontiac. And they were all exactly the same except for some branding and blah blah blah, whatever. But then the gross example for me was this thing called a Cadillac Cimarron, I think was the name, or Cimarron, or whatever the hell it was. And it was like this tiny little, it was really a Chevy, not even a Caprice, but like whatever tiny Chevy, but just with Cadillac branding. And that's Copilot. It's like the one no one wants. And you immediately see it for what it is. And you're like, what are they doing? They're slapping a logo on something. And it just doesn't, I don't know. Look, go to market fast. I get it. But like, this just feels, I don't know, like intellectually diminished. I don't know.
Yeah.
Compromised. I don't know what the word is I'm looking for here, but
Anyways, the new OpenAI agent stuff that they literally announced yesterday is very interesting.
mhm,
I do not have it on my account yet. We do have
right.
it at work we have a couple, well, more than a couple of the $200 accounts, and they've got it. You're limited to, I think, 400. I don't know, per month action. So it's 400 sounds like a lot until you start. Well, like the first 25 are just screwing around,
Exactly.
and then
Yeah,
the
you
next
blow through.
25
Yeah.
are you have a scenario you want to
Hmm.
solve. Like here's a scenario I want to solve that I
Okay.
think this is going to work for. So we have a customer emails us and says, I need a quote, right? It goes
Hmm.
into a platform, just for lack of better terms, we'll just say it's an email platform.
Okay.
Um, and it's all through the browser. And so like you can
Hmm.
see all the data right there, but quotes
Hmm.
come from our eMerchant platform. Then we have to look up their account in our system.
Hmm.
It's all structured data. The agent will very easily be able to go see the inbound, see the data. We can teach it to copy and paste it into the certain fields, and then the response. What my hope is that So there's like the email comes in, then right you have the reply field. Is that
Yeah.
the agent will then just pre-populate that information with what the expected response would be. Then the human comes in, validates
Yeah.
it.
In other
quote,
words, you're actually emailing it to the person really at your
Yeah.
company, who then makes sure it's correct. Then they send it to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
rather because otherwise the person has to open the platform, get the information, go over to the emergent platform, create the quote, validate it, make sure it looks good, then go check their account and everything else. And like it's a real simple flow, but it takes time, and you need, it's all designed for mouse click keyboard sort of mentality, and these agents are going to be the thing that can do that.
Yeah. This is how software is going to change. Like eventually this will get more sophisticated, but right now you're doing the brute force approach. This is like screen scraping
MCP
and
servers, I think, are the sophisticated way.
Yeah.
But you need a way that works
change.
with. I
Right.
hate to use this analogy, but it's almost like a Waymo versus a Tesla full self-driving. Like Waymo uses LiDAR, it uses all the right technology that is designed, that is really, really good for this. Whereas Tesla tried to do what the agents are doing, where it just like sees the UI as it was built for the horse and buggy era.
Yeah, I mean, just to bring it into sort of like a simple thing that anyone would understand. Like if you use Windows, the settings app, and the whole thing about control panel, the settings or whatever. But as the settings app has evolved, there's always been search, and search probably for a long time worked like an old Infocom, text adventure game where if you didn't type in exactly the right thing, you didn't get the right answer. And then there was like this brief moment where they were doing natural language search, and they kind of took it back, but now they're doing that new rev. And I think where we're at now is like the settings app is actually, I'm not saying it's an MTC server or whatever, but they did componentize it to a point where as a developer, if you write a third party app or whatever, you can actually impact any specific feature that's in settings, but you can make your own little toggle button, dark, light mode, whatever. Like it's very easy. And I think that is what you add AI on top of that, because instead of doing like a manual database of terms that may map to light, dark mode or whatever, like I want to change the colors of my screen, whatever. Like now it's actually just doing natural language against it. And it works. Like it works good. And this is a stupid example. It's simple, but it's why do I have to open an app, go to the right place and click a toggle to go light, dark mode? Like, what is that? Like, at some point, this is some back end thing, and you just say dark mode, and it just does it. And you don't have to think about how it works. Like it's a weird thing to have, even with a GUI interface, it's a weird thing to impose on the user. You have to have a certain knowledge of how this thing works. And I'm just talking about the stupid, simplest thing in the world. You're talking about something that this is financial stuff on the back end. It's proprietary company information. Like this actually has to work. And so for now it can kind of work, but like eventually whatever email service you're using, whatever database holds this stuff, whatever merchant platform you're using, are all going to have these back end. This is like comm interfaces. It's like they're going to interact with programmatically with these agents. They're going to come in and probe it and ask you questions. It's not going to matter what the UI looks like, but now we worry about the UI because that's how we interact with it. So we're forcing AI to interact with it that way too. But eventually this will be more sophisticated. But not for Copilot, because Copilot's terrible. No, I'm just kidding.
Here's your we're all doomed scenario that I ran into yesterday.
Yeah.
So I was just working or whatever. It's like, man, I really want an RSS reader. And I wanted it to look like a Bloomberg terminal, like that. Like,
nice.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like just type heavy, completely keyboard. I built with Sonnet 4, I built an RSS reader that was React Native, or React, ran in a little browser window in 15 minutes that accomplished what I needed.
That's beautiful.
Now, this is far from like I could give this to people and whatever else, but it allowed me to put in...
You're doing it for you, really. And if it
allowed
does
me
what
to
you
put
need.
in 10 different RSS feeds. It updates it every 5 minutes. It's completely keyboard navigation. It breaks every time you close it, and I have a little script that sets it back up when I restart.
Right.
It took me 15 minutes to get the RSS reader I wanted.
Yeah.
Zero searching.
So,
crazy.
If you extrapolate what I just said about settings, and if you accept it as a fact or whatever, like you could kind of imagine, like it just keeping it to Windows, because Windows is simple and stupid in some ways. Like one of the big complaints in Windows, and one of the things you address with Start 11, for example, is like we don't have as many taskbar options. We can't put the taskbar at the top or whatever, right? I mean, if this thing is like just fully programmatic, like you're just gonna sit down and be like, put the taskbar on the top. It's just gonna go to the top. Like it just will deal with whatever the stuff is that they for some reason cannot do as human beings. Like eventually, and of course, by the time we have this capability, the notion of a taskbar will be so stupid it won't even make sense. But this is the stone ages of this stuff. Like we're gonna look back and be like, can you believe we ever did this?
Hold on. Let's see if I can't. Whoops,
Right,
that's the wrong one.
Excuse me.
Twitter BD Sams. Let's see if I can't find this thing. Yep. Assuming you can't see anything.
No, I can see the screen.
Between ChatGPT and Claude, this is what I built.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I like it.
like, but that's we're done.
I mean, Brad, I spent more time than that researching RSS readers about a month or 2 months ago, whatever it was, 3 months ago, because the one I was using was becoming unreliable. I mean, I ended, so I use a free tool for this right now, but like it took me a long time to find the one I wanted. Like it took a long time.
Yeah.
Well, this is what AI, like, think about it. You generate an image and you're like, this is close, but make this change, whatever it is. Like to get rid of that one person in the picture, whatever it is. Imagine doing that with like software. You're like, this is good because this is what you do right now in Cursor or chat, GitHub Copilot, whatever. You basically, except it's at the code level. Like you're like, here's a function or a method or whatever. This is good, but ... But now you can just like, here's the application. This is good, but change the font, make this. Maybe I want a thumbnail for each of them, whatever it is. And you don't have to think about what it's doing back there because, I mean, someone has to, I guess, at some point, depending on what it is. But as an individual, this is incredibly powerful.
This was too good of a podcast. We got to delete this.